Real Madrid. Here we are, yet again, another year of a failure. And we're going to go ahead, of course, run through what happened this year. Most importantly, the latter half of the year, because I did that halfway video back in December when Xabi Alonso was still the manager. And I talked a bit even after when Arbeloa came back in. And we're going to go through the season and how well we did with player ratings involved. But let's go ahead and begin. Of course, when we're gonna pick off from February, most importantly, that Manchester City game. It was Arbeloa's first big game. I was not with high expectations. We had gotten eliminated by, I believe it was Albacete under Arbeloa, who had brought a variety of youngsters. And I had already called him a cone. I called him a variety of things, how he was just a Florentino Glazer, how he was just taking full responsibility for himself, having no balls to put his foot down on the players, which is kind of what happened with Xabi Alonso. But Xabi Alonso was kind of coerced into not being able to do anything with the players, and the issues with the locker rooms just continued. But we had that little glimpse of hope when we completely trashed Manchester City, both home and away, with an incredible hat trick from Fede Valverde. And you know, like I said, you were with some hope. I really thought that we were going to start kicking up our gears, and no, it just went back to reality. We kept on drawing and losing and playing horrendously, and eventually we met a team that was simply better than us in Bayern Munich. And sure, were we close to winning? Yes, we were, but realistically, that team was not deserving of winning anything this year. And sure enough, we didn't win anything. And then, of course, towards the end of the season, we saw the fight between Fede Valverde and Tchouaméni. It was truly the nail in the coffin for Arbeloa. I already did not expect him to stay in the job for much longer. Of course, I had talked about how if Zidane was available, he would have been the manager, but he wasn't. He wanted to be the France manager, and as we know, he did end up becoming the French manager, and we had to live through Arbeloa. And it was just a horrendous season. That's the best way that I can sum it up. Apart from Manchester City win, there was no highs, none at all. We were just incredibly mediocre. But now we can dive into the player ratings. And let's go ahead and begin with the goalkeepers, of course, Andre Lunin and Thibaut Courtois. Lunin, he did his job. Of course, he did a couple mistakes against Albacete. He might have been the reason that we got eliminated. But to pin it all on him is insane to me. And he honestly did not have that bad of a performance against Bayern Munich. Yes, he did have that stinker of a goal from a darn corner, but I'm not going to put the whole blame on him. Courtois, he was injured throughout a lot of the season, like maybe a third or 1/4 of the season. So, you know, I'm not going to put the whole blame on the goalkeepers. They did what they could. We can move on to the defense. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think he had a C. A C is the best way I can put it. The times that he was available, he looked incredible. He looked like the best fullback the world has ever seen. But there was not many of those times, honestly. He was injured for most of the year. And people are going to say, oh, it's not on him. I don't care if it's on him, man. Like, he was here to come in and be the best, to be the starting fullback, and he couldn't even stay fit for that. So, yeah, I'm going to put it on him. A C, I think, is perfect. You had Dani Carvajal as well at that right back position. Also a C. You know, he was injured as well, and then he fell out with Álvaro Arbeloa, and he wasn't really able to play much. He just had an all right end of the season. Quite sad that he ends up leaving, right? But it was the time to leave, and we can now move on to the center back position. Let's go ahead and begin with Rudiger. He also had a C. He barely was able to play because of the injuries and all of that. When he was able to play, he was quite bad, and he was not the Rudiger that we were used to. But you know, he performed pretty well against Manchester City, so I think a C is fair. Dean Huijsen, he really did have an F. I know he's 20 years old, but You know, he can always grow. You can tell that he has talent, but at no point in the season, apart from Manchester City, did I think that he was a player that was ready to represent the shirt. He was just overall incredibly poor. And you know, there's that stats where he was among the best players in La Liga, but me looking at Real Madrid game in, game out, he was just simply never that player this season. And you know, it's not completely on him. He was partnered up with a Militao who was running on one leg. He was partnered up with a Rudiger who, like I said, struggling with injuries a lot. And he was partnered up with an Asensio who I don't rate at all. So an F is bad at the time, but I think he's gonna definitely improve. Then talking about Asensio, we might as well go with him. Also an F, he wasn't really able to get. Actually, I'll give him a C. He wasn't given many opportunities to play. When he played, he was meh, too bad. And I really think that we should have sold him, but we're gonna end up keeping him. And finally, Militao, I'll give him a B. Every single time that he played, he looked like he was one of the best center backs in the world. The issue is that he was injured most of the time. And I can use the same situation as Trent. Sure, he was injured, but at the end of the day, he wasn't able to stay fit. I'm not gonna put on him. Why? Because this is mostly on Florentino. Last year, the same thing happened. Okay, we didn't get a single center back. Ancelotti was just forcing a player who had just gone through ACL to play every single waking moment because he was the best there. And we couldn't give him a single ounce of break. Ended up breaking him. So it's really not on him, man. It's unlucky that we weren't able to protect him a lot more. Because I'm telling you, this guy could clearly be one of the best, if not the best center back in the world if he was healthy. But now with the new signings, which we will talk on later, hopefully he's able to come back to full fitness, and you know, we can ease him in this year, and hopefully for upcoming years, he's still only 26, he can come back even stronger. So a B, I think a B is fair for Eder Militao. And finally, David Alaba, he barely got any playing time. I'll just put him as a C. He was inconsequential. Like I said, barely played. I don't have much to say about him. All right, moving on to the left back position. And let's start with who was our starter left back, Alvaro Carreras. I'd say he actually had a B type of season. People are gonna dog him. People are gonna say that he was really bad, that he is not Real Madrid level. He is Real Madrid level, he's just really young. Same situation as Dean Huijsen. Actually, he had quite a good season. Of course, people are gonna say, oh, what about against Olise? He was getting dogged, he was getting danced around. That's Michael Olise, a potential Ballon d'Or winner. Okay, Dean Huijsen was struggling with attackers from Espanyol, attackers from lower levels than them. And Carreras was actually locking them down pretty well and locked up Lamine Yamal pretty well as well. So I'm not going to take that for Alvaro Carreras. I think he was pretty darn good. He was able to score some goals. Of course, defensively, he's not the best, but he is only 23. So I'm going to cut him some slack, and I think a B rating is not bad. Moving on to Ferland Mendy, I think this guy is an F. He was also not able to play many times. The times he played, he looked really well. But what do I care if you're playing 2 games a season? I think he should leave Real Madrid. He was an incredible servant. He is, when he's fit, probably the best left back in the world. But he's never fit. And I think he's ran his course. And this is not a situation similar to Ferland Mendy, to Eder Militao, where they're just forcing him in. No, he's playing 1 game and he's not able to play anymore. So he should leave the club, and an F rating I think is fair for him for this season. Now we can go ahead and move on to the midfield position. Let's go ahead and start with captain, Fede Valverde. Sure, he had a mid to bad season. You could say even a C with that Champions League display against Manchester City, but that fight in itself is an F. I think I made a video talking about that fight, and one thing is that he was a random player. No, this guy's a captain, and according to all the reports that came out this season, Fede Valverde was mainly at fault. He was for some reason really pissed, and he took it out on Tchouaméni. And Tchouaméni did not stand back. You know, he did not just throw it back at Fede Valverde. He actually went ahead and stood up his ground. Rightly so. And that's simply not a way that a captain should be acting, especially you got clapped up probably by Tchouaméni. So this is an F season by Fede Valverde, and I really did consider him being a player to sell this summer. But I guess he's going to be staying, so, you know, all he can do is just get better at being a darn captain from here on out, because this guy is no flipping kid, man. He's 27 years old, okay? He shouldn't be acting this way. Up next, we have Eduardo Camavinga. He's a resounding F as well. The times that he was able to come in, he played like shit, okay? There were strong rumors that he was gonna leave by the end of the season, and instead of seeing a Camavinga who was thirsty to prove himself, who was thirsty to be the best player, the best midfielder, the midfielder that we were missing, instead of that, we saw Camavinga that was completely devoid of any type of confidence. Camavinga that was not even bothering to track back at times. And it costed us a bunch of goals. And even he came out and, you know, against Bayern Munich, a very unlucky red card. In my opinion, shouldn't even been a red card. But it was just the nail in the coffin for this Camavinga season. A resounding F. I would have sold him. He clearly is not the player that we need at this point in time. He's simply a Fede Valverde, but younger. And I don't even know if we need Fede Valverde in the team, to be honest with you. So why would we need Camavinga? But, I mean, he's going to be staying. Maybe he's able to pick up the scraps. Maybe he's able to pick up his game. He's a very passionate, so maybe Mourinho's going to use him a lot more. But he just had a dreadful season. The mighty Jude Bellingham is up next. My personal favorite player. That does not mean he is devoid of any type of criticism. He has another F. We have another F in the midfield, okay? First of all, with Xabi Alonso, he did not want to play in a deeper role. He did not want to play that kind of box-to-box role where he had to defend more than attack. And we saw it. He was lazy. He didn't want to track back. And that was incredibly disrespectful to Xabi Alonso. Then the second half of the season came, and he never really picked it up, okay? Well, he was a lot better than he was with Xabi Alonso, but, you know, we never saw a display of Jude Bellingham that was just wow, okay? So, to me, this is an F. He just had an overall poor season. Of course, he was injured. Like I said, this does not eliminate the rest of the season. He was injured for 2 months, okay? 2 to 3 months. The season is 9. So it's not gonna be, I'm not gonna cut any slack for that. So Jude had an F season. Moving on, Tchouaméni. I think he actually had a B to B plus season. I think he was actually pretty good. He was our most consistent midfielder, and I think he did his job quite well. My issue with it is that he's quite limited, and he is not the DM that we need. We need a DM that is more comfortable on the ball and making through balls, or a DM that's able to be a ticker. He is neither of those. He's a very good defensive midfielder. He can clean up stuff really well, and he can from time to time give you some good passes, but we need some consistency in the passing department, because he simply is not that. A B, I think, is a fair result. Of course, he had that fight with Fede Valverde, but like I said, our reports point that Tchouaméni was not the mole, and that he was not at fault for that fight. So a B, I think, is a good score for Tchouaméni. Moving on to Arda Güler, and it's another B. I think he played quite well, but once again, he is clearly not the player that we need. If you noticed, all of these players that I've said in the midfield are not the players that we need. We don't need players that are risky at all times. We don't need players that are passive at all times. We need that kind of blend. A player who's comfortable on the ball, that's comfortable with passing the ball back to the center backs if they need to, or picking the right time to driving through with the ball and putting those long balls through. And none of these players are that way. We saw a multitude of times where Arda Güler was just putting senseless balls that didn't need to be put up, and he was just losing them, or times where he was trying, he did a lot of mistakes, and you can tell he's a camp. You know, he loves taking those risky passes, those risky runs, and you know, in the camp position, he looked incredible. But when it came to a double pivot, you can tell he's too green still. And I still think that we should mold him into that Modric role as a pivot. He has the capability of doing it, but you know, you have to like change the chip from Arda Güler. But a B, I think it's a respectable scoreline. Really earned his spot amongst a favorite in the Real Madrid fan base. Finally, Thiago Pitarch. Relatively, I'm doing this relative to the player quality and the player that we want. I must say he got an A. I must say he is our one and only A of this season. He came in and he is exactly the player that we need. Of course, he's not ready, right, to be the starter game in, game out. You know, he had those couple of mistakes against Bayern Munich, against Manchester City. But overall, what I've seen from this guy is very impressive. You know, he is that type of player, that profile that wants to keep things ticking. Completely different way as to what Arda Güler plays. And of course, he's going to make mistakes. But like I said, relatively to what we need in the team right now in the midfield, he's exactly what we need. He's going to be perfect coming off of the bench. We should give him a bit of playing time. By no means should this guy be relegated to the bench. He's incredibly talented, and he does what this Real Madrid needs in this point of time. So, yeah, I'm giving him an A, Thiago Pitarch. And of course, there's Dani Ceballos, F. That's it. That's all I got to say. We can move on to the attacking players. Let's start with Vinicius Jr., F. A big, resounding F. He didn't even have a mid-season. Of course, he had a couple games where he looked unplayable, where he looked incredible. Espanyol being one of them, where he was able to score a brace, I believe, or a hat-trick. And against Manchester City, where he wasn't able to score, that was worrying. But he was an incredible player. But the reality is that we once again got proven that Mbappe and Vini cannot play together. For the majority of the season, he was incognito. Of course, he had that one great game against Barcelona, but then he got benched through a temper tantrum. And a lot of people are going to put the blame on him as to why Xabi Alonso ended up resigning. I'm going to be one of them and put the blame on him, on Valverde, on Jude, as to why Xabi Alonso actually wasn't even resigned. He just quit. I mean, he was fired. So, yeah, Vini, you are still not on the bright lights for Real Madrid. I'm so happy that he re-signed. He is a player that I would love to instead of Mbappe, but we got to look at the season objectively, and he had a poor season for Real Madrid. This was an F tier. It wasn't as bad as last year, but this year was still pretty bad. And I don't care about the stats. People are going to bring up the stats, oh, 25 goals or whatever. I don't care. It's not about stats. It's about the moments, and it's about how the player performs game in, game out, and he was not that guy this season. And talking about that guy, we can move on to Mbappe. A player who, although I hate, and I do think he is a cancer to the locker room, I'm going to say that he had a B season. You know, at the end of the day, he was the one scoring good goals, and there is nuance to these goals, because I hate when somebody else would probably say he had an A season because he scored all the goals, basically. But at the end of the day, there's nuance to these goals. If Mbappe wasn't here, who's to say that Vini wouldn't be the one scoring goals? Valverde the one scoring goals. Arda Güler the one scoring the goals, making up for that difference for Mbappe. So I just think it's stupid to say that, oh, if it wasn't for Mbappe, we don't even finish in Champions League spots. We probably do. We probably play a completely different brand of football. Everyone's involved, and voila, we're better. But you know, he did end up scoring a lot of the goals. But the key takeaways is, of course, with Xabi Alonso, there was a lot of weird stuff going on. Talking about when Barcelona won the Copa de España, the Supercopa de España, and he dragged everybody out. Now, I don't think that was as big of a deal as many people make it out to be. I think he was just telling him to get out because the camera people were going to take pictures and he wasn't supposed to be there. The team was supposed to be somewhere else because they did end up staying there to watch Barcelona lift a trophy. But I mean, the rebellion that he was trying to cause when Arbeloa was in, the fact that he was doing everything in his power to get that goal mark, which, you know, you want the player that wants to score the goals, but you could just tell. I mean, this guy is incredibly selfish, and we're not going to compare him to Cristiano Ronaldo, because Ronaldo knew when to be selfish and when to not be selfish. And on top of that, he was the main man, and he had earned his spot as the main man for Real Madrid. Mbappe hasn't done neither, and he is acting like he has. I guess Florentino has done his job and, yeah, gave Mbappe the keys to the kingdom. So, for those reasons, he has not had an A season, but the goals, you simply cannot ignore them. So, a B season is respectable. I still think that he should go, and I still back that campaign of, what, 10,000 signatures or whatever. Moving on, Gonzalo Garcia, I think he had a C season. He wasn't able to get many opportunities, and the only memorable times that I have from him is against Real Betis back in January. Okay. Other than that, of course, you got Endrick, who went to Lille. I think he earned his spot back into Real Madrid. Had an incredible second half to the season for Lyon. You got Fran Garcia. I forgot to mention him in the defenders portion. I think he had also a C-level season. Mastantuono, I actually think he had also a C-level season. You know, people are gonna say he had an F-tier season. He was dreadful. He wasn't. He's 19 years old, and he showed, when he came onto the pitch, he showed a lot of grit compared to the rest of his teammates. So I'm not gonna jump on that hate bandwagon for Franco Mastantuono, but we've basically gone out through all the players. Now to rate the manager, Álvaro Arbeloa. Xabi Alonso, first of all, I think he had a C level, not an F. Some of his decisions were very questionable. He lost the dressing room, but I want to attribute most of it to Florentino Perez as to why he lost the dressing room, and I think he left a bit earlier. And Álvaro Arbeloa, I also think he had a C level season. I think if you would have seen my previous videos, you would have thought that I would have given an F because of how furious I was with him in the comments that he made about Madridistas and about Florentino and how much of a shield he was for Florentino Perez. But he did something that Xabi Alonso never did and promised he would do. He gave the opportunity to the youngsters. He gave the opportunities to Thiago Pitart. He brought in a couple fullbacks even, who I think didn't do a bad job when they came in. But other than that, there was maybe a C- because under him there was a full fight that got leaked. There was a mole. The whole dressing room was ripped apart under him. So yeah, I think a C- to a C is a good score for Álvaro Arbeloa. Now finally, the big dog himself, Florentino Perez. I've been calling him for this guy to resign because of course he was dreadful, and he held elections against that other guy. I believe his name is Enrique. So and Enrique ended up losing, promising that he was going to get Erling Haaland. That was an absolute ridicule. We did not need Erling Haaland. If anything, you should have campaigned, I'm gonna get rid of Mbappe, honestly. But Florentino ended up winning. It was a whole clown show, Real Madrid, for a couple months. Towards the end of the season, you had the fight, you had the elections, but you know, Florentino gained back his power. Florentino ended up bringing up Mourinho, and now he's done a variety of signings. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the season as a whole. This was an F of a season for Florentino, back to back, okay? Last year, I talked about how we needed center backs. This year, halfway through the season, I was like, we need defenders really bad. We don't even need that midfielder, that tiki-taka midfielder. We can live without that, but we are leaking so bad defensively. And Militao, like you said, he was on borrowed time if we kept playing him. And yet again, he signed nobody. Okay, he signed Dean Huijsen, and that was it. That was never enough for this Real Madrid side. And Trent Alexander-Arnold at the time, and Carvajal, we had seen injury problems. We needed a right back. We brought nobody. Left back position, Alvaro Carreras was not enough. He was too young. Ferland Mendy was somewhere else, in another planet, not able to play. Fran Garcia was not it. We didn't bring anybody in on that left back position. Horrendous from Florentino Perez once again. And and of course, he started really well, brought in a lot of signings. We better get Rodri, because if Rodri is not gotten, or if we don't get something like an Adam Wharton or a player that can play that role of a tiki-taka, I am calling this, man. I'm calling this transfer window probably a C. Because now that we have the defenders, we need that midfielder bad. We did not need Diomande for 120 million. Did we need a right winger? Yes. A Diomande for 120? No. We did not need that. So, and especially a lot of people are gonna say, what do you care about how much they spend? I do care, because we're not a Premier League team. We don't have the money that those Premier League sides do, and to spend 120 on John Diomande is insane to me. So I'm hoping we get either an Adam Wharton, a Stiller, a Rodri, somebody who can come up and be that role, because we know Bernardo Silva is not going to be able to play 60 games this season. We're going to have to need have multiple teams, 2 teams at least, to compete in all fronts. But I'm hoping the transfer window's not closed yet. I'm hoping we get somebody, because if we don't, you know, we might look good on the counterattack, but when it comes to having to play out of the back, Arda Güler is going to have to shoot it once again, and hopefully he is ready this time around. But anyways, guys, that's my evaluation for the season. Season as a whole, y'all know this is a failure. This is a massive F for Real Madrid, and hopefully next season it's a lot better. But I hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all on the next one.